what version of these are the ones that are cocooning people? Because I gotta know which ones to avoid, you know?
I'm sure
Oh,
this is the little ones, like, you know, they're just sneaking
ew,
in. No one sees them, but ew.
I hate it! Hey there, welcome to the Winx Forever podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So join me each week as we rewatch and discuss each episode starting with season 1 of the original series. This is the Winx Forever podcast. Hello, fairy friends. Welcome back to another season 1 rewatch episode of the Winx Forever podcast. I am your host, Lola Valentine. If you are new here this season, we are taking a deep dive into the first season of the Winx Club series, comparing the two original English dubs, the Canadian Cinelume dub, or better known as the Rye English dub in the fandom, with the first American English dub by the 4Kids Entertainment Group. We're starting to get to the end of our season 1 rewatch, and I really wanted to make this episode special for you guys. So please welcome for the first time to the show, Yunen, or you may know him better as Feeleam. Welcome to the show, Yunen. I'm so
Thank
excited to have
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm excited too because just so excited to be here and be with you, Lola, for the first time too. It's
Yes.
so great to finally be here
I know, it's been
with
a
you.
long time coming. Yeah, we've been goodness Instagram friends for a while now,
Yep,
a couple of
actually.
years. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I mean, you were even like a huge inspiration for like helping me get my gifts on to Instagram and actually helping me understand how to do that. Like, I mean, it's been a very fun, time getting to know you and your art, but let's give our audience a chance to get to know you and what you do in the
Hmm.
Winx fandom.
Let's do
Um,
this.
yeah, so what was the first time that you ever saw Winx Club, and what really attracted you to this very niche fairy show?
I actually don't remember the first time I saw the show, but my parents told me about it. The
Okay.
funny story was that we were driving, I guess in the south of France,
Mm.
and I was apparently a little bit turbulent. I don't know how to say that.
Uh-huh.
Or, well, the real thing was that I was calm, but my father wanted to give me a gift, and he found the first DVD of the first season in
Amazing.
French, and he just bought it, even though my mom was like, "But it's a girl show," and he was like, "I don't care." So
I
he
love
bought,
that.
yeah. So he bought it, and we started playing it in the car because we had a video
Yes.
player into the car, and this is where my Wix adventure started. And I don't know, I was attracted to the fantasy behind this, the fashion also, the fact that the girls were very fashionable, the
Yeah.
powers, the magic, all the mythology also brought into the first season.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was really admiring this show, and I think this was my really entrance gate to the fantasy and even sci-fi world in some
Yeah.
way, because there's also a bit of sci-fi into Winx Club,
Yeah.
and this is really my entrance gate into this.
I love that so much. So, yeah, and you, like so many other Winx fans, grew up in France,
Hmm.
kind of in like the heyday of Winx Club, really. So, what was your experience growing up with Winx Club in France?
Well, it was actually really popular there. It was a really popular show. Everyone knew about this. And I grew up really, I would say hiding the fact that I
Yeah,
was enjoying it because it was really a girls' show. And
right.
I was like, I've talked about this in school, but my friends were like, you're really watching this, etc.? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh, boo, etc.
Yeah.
Not really harassing me about this, but I wasn't e really comfortable talking about this neither. So
Mm.
I would just keep it for myself and watch it at home, but I never felt really bad liking the show because in the end, when I see where it brought me today, I'm really
Yeah.
proud of this. So
Yes.
it was, I would say it was cool growing up with it, and especially in France because since it was popular, there was a lot of merch, a lot of products
Yes.
there. First the DVDs, but also the video game. There was also a lot of dolls, but I wasn't really interested in this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was a lot of things, and I felt really uh like lucky to grow in France to see the Winx Club because we had the chance to have all the seasons dubbed except the season 8. But you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
when I wanted to watch Winx Club, I know I could watch it, and it was really great actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does it mean now to you as an adult in the fandom too? Like being able to now, because obviously back in the day, the early 2000s, it was not
Mm-mm.
a very popular, thing, I think, socially to, be like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if it's a girl show, quote unquote, or a
Mm-hmm.
guy show, quote unquote. Like, like there wasn't a lot of that inclusivity and support in that
Mm-hmm.
area. So what does it mean to you now?
Well, it has been hard even today to
Yeah.
share this with my friends, but I think that thanks to Beyond Dimensions,
Mm.
I'm able to talk about it more freely because
Yeah.
I've made this project with my bare hands, and you know, obviously it's Winx Club inspired
Hmm.
heavily, and I was like, yeah, I love Winx Club, but look what I've done. And it's
Yes.
more, I talk about this in this way rather than I just love Winx Club, etc. It's really because
Yes.
I've made something out of it that I can now talk freely about it, but
Yeah.
I'm I assume now more and more that I like it because as I said, without Winx Club I wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
I wouldn't probably wouldn't never started drawing, etc. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of this now. It was difficult back in the days, but today it's
Yeah.
more and more easy to talk. It's easier to talk about this.
Absolutely. I love that. Speaking of drawing, when did you begin making art and how long have you been drawing for?
I started drawing when I was at the end of elementary school. So
Okay.
when I was 10, I guess. And I started drawing not really because of Winx Club. Well, it was a part of it, but I had a friend who was drawing, who had art lessons, and she would just draw. I was amazed by how the way she drew, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do this too. And I started drawing I remember People Up, the Pokemon, even
Yes.
Mario and the Princess Peach. And
Uh-huh.
the funny thing was that I was always reproducing the same art, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just printed it in my head and I was like, let's do this on paper.
Yeah.
And I think I started really drawing for myself and be more free with Winx Club because I started really drawing my own characters, started to not reproduce but really imagine something with the Winx Club.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be oof, 13 years, 13 years that I've been drawing, and
Wow.
i I started really to get into it with Winx Club actually. Because
Absolutely.
again, the fashion, just the style was just amazing. I was like, that's cool. I want to draw like this too. And I would draw my
Yes.
characters and, just trying to create beautiful outfits, beautiful women. And in the end, I started also drawing my own characters on the side. And this is where my other story, when I was 12, started to was born in my head, like
Oh.
the one you see in the background.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
was really a little seed, but the more I grew up and the more it evolved too, and it evolved along the way with my art style and the way I draw, etc. So it was
Yes. I
cool.
love that. And when did you start making digital art?
It was when I was in the school after elementary school. Because in
Okay.
French we call it a collège, a college.
Oh,
So
funny.
it's
Yeah.
definitely not a college
No,
in
not a
English,
college in the US.
because
Yeah.
I'm in college right now.
You're in university, right?
Yeah.
That's what you guys, yeah, absolutely.
So well, probably the age will be better. I started drawing when I was digitally when I was 13,
Okay,
14.
nice.
And the funny story was that I've actually stole my mom's graphic tablets to start drawing. Like my father gifted her a graphic tablet for her birthday because she was really into in graphics
Yeah.
on Photoshop, etc. And I was like, I want to try that too, drawing on Photoshop. And I just told her for an afternoon, and I was like drawing some chibis for friends,
Yeah,
and it turned out great at back in the time.
you're
Today
right.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah, today it wasn't that great, but I was like, wow. I can do
Oh.
everything digitally, and that's where I actually really started drawing digitally. My mom never got her graphic tablet back. But
Oh,
actually, she
that's so
never
funny.
really used it, so I was cool with
Yeah.
it. She was cool with it.
That's good. That's good. Well, I know obviously, I mean, your story is so much like, me and other creatives in the fandom that just get so inspired by Winx Club. I love to hear that, you had the support system of your parents of, seeing one buying you a Winx Club DVD. That's incredible. And then two, like supporting you in your art too. That is so
Mm-mm.
important. What gave you the idea though for a Pokemon Winx Club crossover?
Well, I've always been a fan of Winx Club. I've
Oh,
always been a fan of Pokemon. It was
yes.
among my first video games, along with The Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
And
yes.
and
Oh,
I was like, one day, I think it was back in when Tynix was released, when the episode for Tynix was released. Uh, I'm an absolute Tynix stan,
oh,
first of all.
yes.
It was
Absolutely.
so impressive. I remember I almost fell out my chair. I was like, wow. And Elisa Roselli like did such a great job with the song, and I was like, oh, it's
Yes.
perfect.
It's so
And I was like, I want to create a character with her Tynix transformation. And there was a Pokemon I really loved because I was like, it's really Winx Club inspired.
good.
It really reminded me
Yes.
of Winx Club. And the funny thing is that the generation it was introduced to was the one, the region inspired by France. And I was like, let's do
Yes.
this. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I was like, what if I make a fairy who has Sylveon base powers? And it
Yes.
gave birth to Philly in her Tynix form.
I
And
love it.
from there, I was like, I like this character. I can try to give her some more transformations, for example. And that's where I started doing the whole lineup of all the transformations. And I think
Yes.
a lot of people know me for this actually because
Mhm.
it was really popular on DeviantArt, and I've started drawing her transformations from Magic Wings to Dreamix on Lyrics, etc. And in the end, I was like, that character is cool. Maybe I
Yeah.
can try to give her a story. And I created other characters such as Azara, Cleopatra, and Rachel.
Mhm.
And I was like, what if I create a story with all these characters together, like something really
Yeah.
crazy? And the funny thing was that my actual story, the one I'm working on right now, Aeolus the Six, was actually an inspiration for this.
It's so incredible to see just like how one idea can lead to another, can lead to another, and like,
Exactly.
and now here you are and you have built such a community around your art and
Mhm.
around, what you have shared with the world. What does it mean to you to get to share your art online and with this Winx Club community?
Always felt great because, as I said, I was a bit alone when I was
Yeah.
younger when talking about Winx Club. I had a lot of friends, that wasn't a problem, but I had no friends with who I could share the Winx Club interest with.
Yeah.
And starting to share it online was like, here are my Winx friends. Here, I'm a
Yeah.
Winxer, I'm part of the community, and I was like, I just want to inspire people the way others have inspired me. And I'm
Absolutely.
so happy every time I receive a message from someone who said, I love your art, and look, I've made this. What do you think about it? And I was like, wow,
Ah,
that's so great, etc.
yeah.
It's always so great, to get to share all of this with people and be able to talk about this for hours, and may it be art or music or the series itself. It's just great
Yeah.
to feel like we're a great family. And
Hmm.
I felt it even more when I was in Milan, in Italy, back in November.
Yes.
It was like really
Yes.
the Wings family was here, and it was
Yeah.
something else. Like,
Yeah,
mm,
let's talk about that real quick. So, for those of you that don't know, back in November, there was a convention hosted during the Milan Games week, and our friend here got to experience quite a lot, actually.
yep.
It was a very last minute thing. Of course, God love them, Rainbow always, just announcing things like a week or two before they actually happen. So it was
Mm,
a very last minute thing in the fandom that we got to know that Iginio Straffi actually was going to be present at this cosplay contest and meet and greet during the Milan Games Week convention. And so, Yunen, you got to meet Iginio
mhm.
Straffi, so many of our Winx Club friends, Elisa Roselli herself.
Yep.
What was all of that like? Walk us through that experience.
Well, first of all, it was really, as you said, a last minute choice, even for me, because
Yeah.
the thing was that my friend, he told me that they were going there, and he asked me if I wanted to go there like 2 weeks before, and I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Like, stars are aligned. They were
Yeah.
aligned so perfectly. I was like, this thing will never happen again in my life. So I've got to
Right.
jump on the occasion, and I was like, it was also the first time I was going out of France all by myself, going abroad all
Wow.
by myself, taking the plane all by myself, and I was like, "Geez, let's do this." I just took my courage with bare hands, and I was like, "Let's go." Um,
Yes.
so I've booked a flight early in the morning, like 7 a.m. And I was going back the same day. I was going home the same day. I at
Wow.
9 p.m. So it was really a rushy day. I couldn't
Yes.
stop running, and in
Right.
the end, I ended up arriving at Duomo, where I could meet my friend and Elisa. And well, it was the first time I've met Elisa too, in person. We've already talked a lot before that, but it was really the first time we could
Yes.
meet in real life, and it was so awesome because she's just a sweetheart, just a nice person, and she took me in her arms and I took her in my arms, and I was like, "Oh, it's so
Oh,
good to see you."
yes.
So it was great. I gifted them a copy of Beyond Dimensions, and then we went to the event. There was a lot of people. Really,
So
really hard to get
amazing.
into this, but when we got into it, we were like, "Wow, that's awesome." We spotted the Winx stand really quickly, and we managed to started meeting some people there. For example, Russell Malpedro and
Yes.
Stella of Winx Club,
Yes,
and
Stella's
it
Winx
was
Club.
so nice to meet them actually. They didn't know me, of course, because I never shoved my head before.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, yeah, it's me. I've done Beyond Dimensions, etc. And they were like, oh my God, that's you. And I was like, yeah.
Yes.
So it was really, really fun. And yeah, so we got to meet everyone little by little. And it was really at this moment that, I felt that a part of my family was here. My Wings family was here. And I was
Oh,
like, all the people around me have this same passion. And
yeah.
it was just so great to feel in your place, like you belong here, and it was awesome. So, in the afternoon after we ate, Iginio Straffi arrived. It was like awesome. Since we were with Elisa, she got
Right.
to say hi to him, and we were like behind, and was like we were like with my friend, oh my God, he's here. I can't believe it. It's really him. And so he started taking photos with the cosplayers, and
Yeah.
after that, some people started talking with him, taking pictures with him. Elisa and my friend took a picture before me, and I was like, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
I know what I want to say to this man. And
Yes.
I arrived. I begged Elisa to stay and take a picture with me because I was like, there's no way I'm taking a picture by
Nervous.
myself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Nervous. And I was like, please, Yunen, let your English be the best you can. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
This is the moment.
exactly, because the first time I
Yeah.
met someone I really admired, I had my legs shaking and I was
Oh,
afraid this would happen again.
yeah.
And it didn't happen, and my English was perfect, and
Good.
I've been able to tell him that I was so thankful for what he has created, and because everyone who's here, that's thanks to you. Everyone
Yeah.
I know, all my friends today, all my best friends, that's thanks to you. And if I'm an artist today, that's also thanks to you. And I was like, thank
Oh, I
you.
have chills. Oh.
Yeah, so I guess he was happy, and yeah, he definitely seemed happy to hear that. And when I was like going away, just to let others uh
Yeah.
talk with him, uh I turned around and there was Elisa who was like, take the book, give it to him right now.
Oh,
And I was like,
yes.
because
You're like, no,
I
no.
was like, no, because there was everyone around, like cameras,
Yeah.
everyone was there actually, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this in front of everyone because
But
there was
you
the meet and
did.
greet afterwards,
You're right, yeah.
at 5 p.m. and I was like, I'm gonna do this at this moment,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my book signed, etc., and I'm gonna give it to him there. And she was like, no,
You
give
do
it
it
to
now.
him. She literally turned me, and I was like, okay, let's
You're
do
like,
this.
yes, mother.
And I was like, literally. And I was like, excuse me, sir, I have one last thing for you
Oh.
here. And he was like shocked. I think he wasn't waiting such a thing because,
Yeah.
and he was surprised, definitely surprised because of this. And
Yes.
I've started to explain him what it was, and I was like, either I'm going in jail or he likes it. And he definitely liked it. And I was like, because he saw a fairy in the Magic Wings transformation. I was like, don't hate me, please.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. I'm
a
crying.
fairy, two Pokemon. I was like, who, please? Don't put me to jail. I want to get home.
That is
And
so funny.
no, he was really happy about this, and he
Yeah.
started looking at it. And the funny thing was when his one of his probably assistants, I don't know who she really was, but she was also a sweetheart. She asked me if it was for him,
Hmm.
and I said yes, and she took it from me, and she was like, yeah, thank you, I will give it to him later. And it was like, give it back. And she gave it back to him, and he has put his glasses on and he started looking at the pages, and I was like, oh
Oh,
gosh.
that is so fun that he was like, no, 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 I want to look at this now.
Yeah,
Like, that is so
exactly. There was
sweet.
everyone, etc., and I saw all the cameras coming
Yes.
around us, and I was like, oh gosh, I didn't want all this attention. But I was really happy about
Oh,
this. And yeah, he just looked at it and he was like, "Whoa, that's such a great work. Like, thank you so
Oh.
much. I feel honored." This was his words, that he was honored to receive this. And I was like, "No, I'm the one honored to give it to you." You
Yes.
know? And he just told me that it was such a great work and that I should just keep going and believe in my dreams and go on with my projects. And
Oh, wow.
so it was so awesome. Like,
Wow.
I couldn't believe it happened until the next day, and I was like, wow,
Just like kind of
what
dawns on
happened?
you, probably.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, what happened? What did I do?
Oh,
And in the end,
what
it
a
was
fun
just really
time.
great. So,
Yes. A
um,
once in a lifetime experience, truly, I'm
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't have the chance to work on Beyond Dimensions again, because of school and because of my own projects.
Right.
But I think this is a good way to conclude, the
Yeah.
like a nice conclusion chapter to this story, because
Yes.
I've made 4 chapters, I've printed the book, I've gifted it to Iginio Straffi, and I think this is a good way to end this here for now,
Yeah,
and start working on
absolutely.
my own project aside. And I hope I will be able to work on Beyond Dimensions later. But
Right.
yeah, this is definitely a good way to end this. Like, I'm really
Absolutely.
proud of it, and I mean, the book is displayed in my room, so I saw it, so I see it
Right.
every day. It still feels like a
Definitely.
living dream, but I do
Yes.
not regret my choice. Like,
Ah, that's so
so
good.
happy about everything that happened there.
Yes, definitely. Well, do you want to talk about, yeah, the project that you're working on now and what you've got in the works?
Sure. So, the project I'm working on right now was the one that was born when I was 13. This
Yes.
is called Aeol's the Sixth.
Okay.
Aeol is a word I've made up, which means guardian of the world in the language I'm actually training for it.
Wow.
So yeah. So this story is actually inspired by the by a lot of things that I love. First of all, Winx Club. There's also a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender with elements, bending, etc.
Yes.
There's also Pokemon in some way, I guess. A little bit,
Fun.
let's say. Not really the
Okay.
Pokemons themselves, but typing, etc.
Yes.
Even Bayonetta, Supernatural, etc. All these
Ooh.
mythology, angels, demons, and a lot of sci-fi because we are expanding into the whole universe.
Yeah.
And the pitch is just that there are 6 Aeons, all able to bend a different element, who discover they are linked together by a strange power called the power of creation. And in the middle of a millennial war against hell, and the universe, people from
Wow.
all planets, etc., they seem to be the only hope the universe
Yeah.
has to stop this war. It's gonna be great. So
Yes.
I'm really working on it, and it's actually really different than working on Beyond Dimensions because Beyond Dimensions was inspired by 2 universes with
Yeah.
existing material, assets, mythology, etc. But with
Mhm.
the 6, I have to create everything by my own and,
Right.
you know, bring this in the most intelligent way possible, in the best way possible. And it's really, really hard because there's a lot to tell about the word building,
Right.
etc. But you have to tell it in a good way to feel like it's not forced and just let people discover it, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I
So
am so
definitely.
so excited for all of that. Where will you be sharing this on your Instagram, I'm sure, but also
Yeah. Instagram, Twitter,
okay.
so not on the Feeleam accounts, but on
Yeah.
the YunenDraws accounts.
Okay. Awesome.
And it will probably release on Webtoon, Tapas, etc. when
Nice.
it's really
Okay.
out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your background, your amazing experience meeting Eugenio and Milano, and just being on here today. I'm so excited to be able to, dive into our rewatch episode. But before we do, I always like to do a round of rapid fire questions with our guests. So, Yunen, are you ready for these?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire questions with YunenDraws. Favorite Winx member?
Bloom.
Favorite season?
Season 1 and 3.
Favorite specialist or male warrior?
This one is tough, but I would say Brendan, probably.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Secret of the Lost Kingdom.
Favorite transformation?
Bloomix, Tynix,
Yeah,
Enchantix.
yeah.
But Bloomix like the warrior.
Yes,
Warrior thing
yeah.
is incredible.
Favorite romantic relationship in the series?
Healy and Flora. They're so
Has
cute
to be.
together.
Favorite villain?
Stormy. She's always making me laugh so much.
And then favorite pixie?
Every Pixie, I would say Chada, because she's the fairy of gossip and she's so funny.
She's the
She's the
fun one
pixie
for
of
sure.
gossip, yeah.
That wasn't so bad. You did great with those rapid fire questions.
Awesome to know.
All right, well, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into season 1, episode 25, the second to last episode of the Winx Club season 1 rewatch. So don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm YunenDraws, also known as Feeleam, and you're listening to the Winx Forever podcast.
Hey fairy friends, Lola Valentine here. In case you missed it, this year, the Winx Forever podcast launched our very own Discord community. Discord has been a great place to connect with so many wonderful Winxers from around the world to talk about our favorite fairies. I wanted to try and recreate the magic of the original Winx Club online English forums from the old winxclub.com website. So we've got forums where you can post your own topics and respond to others' posts in every Winx topic imaginable. Click the invite link in the description below to join the Winx Forever podcast Discord community. And remember, the magic's in you.
And we are back with YunenDraws, aka Feeleam, and we are going to dive into season 1, episode 25. So, Feeleam, do you want to give us the titles of this episode in the various dubs?
Of course, so in Italian, this episode is called Il Sono di Magix. In the Cinelum version, it's called the Ultimate Challenge, and in the 4Kids version, it's called the Great Witch Invasion.
And wait, what is the Italian?
The Italian?
What does that translate to in English? The Sleep of Magix.
The Sleep? Okay.
Oh, because Magix is like
Yeah,
That's
sleeping.
interesting because that's like a very like little part of the episode. Like that's like
Yeah.
a minor part compared to everything else that happened.
Exactly.
The Cinelum dub title is interesting because the challenge, or the ultimate challenge, like what is that referring to? Is that referring to Bloom's ultimate challenge of like looking inside to like rediscover her powers? Is that the challenge of the Trix's final march to, end Althea? Or, what are we talking about here?
Well, in French, it's actually the same title,
Okay.
L'Ultime Défi, so it's really the same, the ultimate challenge. I think it might refer to Bloom.
Yeah,
Like
I think
she's
so as well.
trying to overcome the ultimate challenge to know who she is and get her powers back, maybe.
Yeah. And then the 4Kids, dub title Great Witch Invasion. I think that is so funny. I think that is like such a like it's a very campy like title, like a lot of their titles are, but like I think that it fits. It fits
Yeah.
the vibe for sure.
Definitely.
But it's funny that like each one of these titles focuses on a different
Yeah.
storyline of the episode, where the Italian is focusing on the magic storyline with Sky and Bloom and Magix. Cinelum title and other dubs title focuses on Bloom's journey, and then the 4Kids title focuses on just the overall battle that is eventually going to ensue. So very fun.
Maybe that the ultimate challenge is kind of the referring to everything that's happening in this episode, because we have Bloom overcoming her final challenge. We have Flora, who's overcoming her ultimate challenge to free
yes.
Murda, and we have finally the tricks who
Mhm.
represent the ultimate challenge for
Yeah.
magics, or even Althea, which represent the ultimate challenge for the tricks. You know,
Yes.
in the
Ooh.
end, this title is probably,
It's very overarching.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that insight. So basically, in this episode, Bloom ventures to Lake Rakaluche by herself, Sky ventures to Magix by himself, and Althea is preparing for a battle, like the final battle with the witches. I think that that was probably the best synopsis we've had all season.
That was perfect.
Well, thanks. Also, well, we're going to dive into the episode scene by scene now, starting with the opening shot of Althea. You can see just all of the damage that Althea has
Mhm.
suffered in the last attack by the witches and their really powerful army of darkness. And as you know, the camera pans, it lands on Stella, who is looking, on their balcony in their dorm over just the damage. And she steps back inside and tells everyone, how worried she still is about Bloom and Sky.
Mhm.
And, meanwhile, Flora is over here pondering about how she can help return Myrta back to her human form finally. And the scene kind of abruptly ends with Musa saying, "You're not going to give up on Myrta, are you, Flora?" And it just kind of like cuts, and I'm just like, that was very awkward and
Yeah.
random. But okay, thanks, Musa, for like blatantly saying what we're all thinking. But the opening scene in the Four Kids dub was so much different. As
Yeah.
we've mentioned in the podcast and previous rewatch episodes, that some episodes in the Four Kids dub take many liberties with reworking the scenes from the original episode sequences. And in some ways it almost felt a little better. Like it felt like the story was a little more cohesive
Mhm.
to me, in my opinion, in the Four Kids dub, because of the way that they rearranged the sequence of scenes. What did you feel about this, Yunen?
Well, watching the Sinulum dub, since it was really the same one as the French,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really different except the voices. But
Yeah.
when I looked into the Four Kids one, I was like, wow, it's actually, they they managed to bring it in a more threatening way than
Yeah.
the original dub. And just seeing the witches starting to walk towards Althea with their
Yeah.
all with their entire army, and seeing the mirror scene not being
Mhm.
cut in the middle out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
It was much more cohesive, as you said.
Mhm.
Everyone has their scene correctly, and
Mhm.
this is much better than what we had in the cinema, because I think they try to maintain the attention a bit everywhere, but
Yeah.
they kind of lost themselves into this. While the Four Kids dub
Yeah.
just we reworked this, and it's actually better
Yeah.
told than the original one.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, like you said, it does feel like they were trying to do too much with the pacing of the
Mm,
Cinnaloom dub, that maybe it just kind of like loses its like original intent. Whereas I think
yeah.
that the Four Kids dub saw what they were trying to do with the original and was like, okay, but we could do it this way, and it actually kind of lands better in a way. I'm curious, have you ever watched the Four Kids dub before?
Not really.
Okay,
Some
okay.
episodes. I knew the opening, of course, because this
Of
is
course, iconic.
really well known.
Yeah.
But I never watched it, no. I
Okay.
really wasn't used to it.
Right. So it was this like
Yeah.
really the first time that you've like given it like a fair like watch through like a full episode.
Yep, it definitely was the first time.
Amazing. Incredible. I mean, like first impression like of your, so like it's crazy that this episode is the first episode that you've ever watched fully of the Four Kids stuff, which is so fun. But like what, I don't know, like does it inspire you to go back and watch all of the Four Kids stuff? Like what are your initial thoughts, you know?
Well, it seems like a not a completely different story, but it's differently told, and
Yeah.
feels like a different story in the end because the lines have been changed, but not
Yeah.
only the scenes, they're not put in the same way than the original dub. So maybe it could be cool to rewatch it right now to have a kind of a second approach to the
Yeah.
first season and even to others. And it can be great actually to rewatch it before the reboots, which is in the works.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
it could be great. Like you have three times the story,
Right.
three different ways the story is told.
Mm.
Can be great, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good take on it, honestly,
Mm,
because it is very fun to think like we have all these different versions of the same story and like we get to enjoy it in different ways. And it's just like, how lucky are we as a fandom to have that? Because
yeah.
not a lot of fandoms have that, which is,
Mm-mm.
I don't know, I think it's really unique and fun, honestly. Because for me, even like not growing up with the Cinelume dub and not growing up with the original way that these episodes are
Mm-hmm.
laid out, like it's been even fun for me with this rewatch to see not only what all of my, friends across the world grew up with, but like too to experience the story and a new way for myself as well. Like I mean, it's so much fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um but as we mentioned in the Four Kids dub, this episode opens very differently. It actually opens with the three witches discussing their plans to finally, take out Althea by leading this large final wave of attacks themselves. So there's a lot of dialogue in the scene compared to the scene in the Cinelume dub, and actually there's a lot more dialogue in general in this episode compared to the
Mm-mm.
Cinelume dub episode. Like it's very, I don't know, like along with what we mentioned, like the scene rearrangement, also the dialogue that they give us to kind of fill in those awkward scenes where there's no really dialogue. There's just like Kins burns pans and stuff of like,
Mm-mm.
just these establishing shots. Really, like they give us so much more detail, I think, in the Four Kids dub with the dialogue.
Yeah. But maybe
Yeah.
it's also maybe that the intent from the Cinelum dub was to really, and that's when we think about the Italian title,
Yeah.
uh, which is the Sleep of Magics.
Yeah.
It's, I think maybe they wanted to show that magic was really sleeping in some way, that everyone
Right.
was not dead, but frozen,
In a
and
deep sleep.
the
Yeah.
fact that we do not hear any dialogue was like felt
Makes it
like
kind
that
of
there,
eerie.
yeah, only
Yeah.
Althea was the only place where there was some life, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
the tricks obviously. So maybe the Four Kids loses
A little
this
bit of that
a
like
little bit of that, yeah.
eeriness. Yeah. No, I can totally see that. And especially in like the scenes with yeah, with the tricks and everything, like because watching the trick scene in the Cinelume dub of them building their army and like up to this final stage, and then also like getting a like their thrones
Mm-mm.
built by this disgusting, like, ew, like,
Yeah.
no, I hate it. No, it's very eerie, right? It's very, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's very much like showing us kind of like the magnitude of
Mm-mm.
what's about to come for Althea. And yeah, I completely can see that. One of my favorite like parts of the added Four Kids dialogue though is like, I don't know, it can be campy sometimes, but like
Mm-hmm.
in the best way. And it also gives us a little more like insight into some of the characters, like I mentioned in a couple of episodes before now. um like the tricks are still senior witches, like they're teenagers still, and
Mm-hmm.
they have this ultimate power. And like, what would teenagers do if they had like world domination like this, and one of my favorite lines from this scene of Icy telling Darcy and Stormy that there was a question in last month's Teen Witch, which seems to be like a teen magazine in the 4Kids dub of Winx Club, similar to the magazine they allude to in the series, Teen Fairy. She says something along the lines of, what would you do if you could rule the universe? And Darcy asks you, well, what did you say? And Icy says, I put, you'll find out soon enough, loser, and sent it in. Because the idea is like, you know, back in the day, like for our younger demographic, maybe our younger audience, back in the day, these teen magazines like Bop and Tiger Beat and Pop Star and, you know, whatever, were very fun, very colorful. They would always have like these like write-in submissions where you can write in your answer to like either like something that the editor wrote or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you could write in these things. And so I see here, you know, and this is 2004, you know, so this is very relevant for the time. I see here in the 4Kids dub is mentioning that she saw an article in Teen Witch, which, you know, is probably a magazine, and she wrote into them basically saying like, we're gonna take over the world, haha. You know, like that is such a funny like like early 2000s teenager response, honestly. Like I can see that, you know, being real. And
True.
I love that. It also kind of gives it like that very like, oh, they're very like delusional, but at the same time like very diabolical. So it's just very
Definitely.
like just evil, like, and I love it.
Evil and crazy.
It's just crazy, yeah, and unhinged, like just absolutely. The 4Kids dub then switches from that scene to the scene that the Cinelume dub does open up with Flora and the Winx in the dorm room gathered around Myrta. And that's when Musa suggests it's time to call it quits on transforming Myrta back into a human, and Stella actually agrees, and they're like, we should just, you know, go find a little nice pumpkin patch for her. And instead of this scene in the 4Kids dub ending like the Cinelume dub did, of Musa just calling out Flora of like, you're not gonna give up on Myrta, are you? They actually extend the scene with the, as you said, like the one that they kind of like cut up, and it's like not as disjointed in the 4Kids dub, so they actually kept those two scenes together and gave us a longer scene here instead of kind of losing that pacing, right, of like a hard break and then, you know,
It's a little suspense
whatever.
on if Flora is going to get Myrta back to her human form or
Right.
not.
Exactly.
And I must say that the scene was actually maybe less impressive in the 4Kids dub because of the music, I guess.
Interesting.
I'm a huge fan of the original music from the Cinelume dub, etc. And that's probably why I'm not a huge fan, or I wasn't really interested in watching the 4Kids dub. But
Yeah.
there was this great thing to keep the scene longer, but at the same time, I
the
felt it
music
was
kind of
yeah,
didn't hit as it did in the Cinelume.
exactly. And
Yeah.
the whole explanation on how Flora managed to free Murder was, you know, it was a bit weird, but I was like, okay, why not?
Because they tried harder than they ever did, or like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
And even in the English dub, just saying that she had to let the magic flow through her two hands, it was like, seriously.
Yeah, I know. Like,
But
what was it? A different explanation in the French version?
I don't remember exactly, but I think it was more of a believing problem. Like Laura had to believe in herself a bit more and believe she was able to save her in order to save her.
Yes.
So, you know, she had maybe to overcome it, a bit like the Charmix challenges.
Yeah,
maybe. But I guess it was probably better than just letting the power flow through her two
through
hands or
both of her hands.
anything. So I was like, why not? I was a bit surprised because I wasn't used to this, but I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Like because for me, I feel the same way about the Cinelume official soundtrack. Just because I it's not as familiar to me, obviously. So I think that a lot of nostalgia plays into, you know, preference of like I mean, there are scenes, and we'll actually get to this eventually. There are scenes where I'm like, this music in the Cinnalum dub sounds so dated. Like, it sounds like not even a show from like the early 2000s. It sounds like a show from like the late 80s, early 90s. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds so like, yeah, like it's so interesting to see the differences. Whereas to me, and of course, my bias talks largely into this of the 4Kids soundtrack, but to me it's such a more unique sounding soundtrack where it's not a timestamp in time, it's a
Yeah.
unique to this show sort of thing. So yeah, it's very
Exactly.
funny, the differences in that.
Yeah, and the thing I loved about this episode in the 4Kids step was that they were actually remixing the Winx Club theme they've made for it. And I was like,
Yes.
this is so great. And it reminded me of the last The Legend of Zelda trailer we got a few weeks ago because I'm a huge
Ooh.
Zelda fan too, and I was
Yeah.
like, there was so much remixes in this trailer, and seeing it in the Winx Club too, in the 4Kids version, I was like, this is so awesome. Like
Yes.
they was using the same melody but in a more epic way, and this is probably what was really lacking in the original one. That this is
Mm,
a great idea the 4Kids one had,
yeah.
and the songs actually sound great. And
Oh no. I think that I've been using my MacBook audio this whole time.
oh,
It's
and
okay.
it's not recording, or
Well, it was recording. It'll just
yeah,
sound way different now because I'm
yeah,
sure I
it
sound way
sounds
different.
different,
Oh
but
my
it's
goodness. Well,
okay.
let me apologize to my listeners because I just realized that my mic was not even connected. So that's a fun time.
It happens. It
It happens to
happens.
the best of us. I'm almost to my 50th episode. You would think that I would be free of these mistakes, but no, here we are.
Oh, you're never free. Like
No,
when you
no.
draw digitally, you always draw on the wrong layer. It always happen.
It
It
always
always
happens.
happens. Always, always, always.
Oh, all right, awesome. Well, my apologies, but the rest of this episode is going to sound so different. Meanwhile, at Lake Rakaluche, Bloom is walking deeper into the waters of the lake and eventually is submerged into the lake. And there she finds Daphne, who appears before her. And Bloom starts to question, is she dreaming, or is this real? And Daphne kind of reassures her that no, she's not dreaming. Like this is actually happening. And she beckons her to come and shows her, these visions of Mike and Vanessa's home where Bloom grew up. And Daphne begins to explain to Bloom that, she had a loving home growing up, and these people who raised her and, was willing to let her go when the time was right. And Bloom is wondering, like what happened to her that she lost her powers. And Daphne begins to, kind of reassure Bloom that all of this that Bloom has experienced happens to everyone at some point in their lives. These doubts and these fears and these worries that she's experiencing, is just a natural occurring experience
Mm,
for people, living life basically. Daphne then kind of assures Bloom that it's not possible for people to steal any one thing away from you, whether your past, your dreams, or your powers. And I love this. I love
mm,
this sentiment that Daphne presents in the Cinnalum dub. And she advises Bloom to really like search deep within herself to recover her powers, and then just kind of vanishes. She's
yeah.
okay, bye. You like doesn't even say
And we
bye. Like honestly,
exactly.
she's
And we
like,
never see
look
her
deep
again.
inside. And then, yeah, I mean, honestly, is this the last time that we see Daphne until Secret of the Lost Kingdom? Like, for her to go from such an integral part of the story
Mm,
in season one to like, girl, you're on your
exactly.
own. And also,
That's
like,
crazy.
it's crazy to me too that Bloom doesn't go back ever to I was about to say Sparks, to Sparks or Domino, you know, her home planet, until Secret of Lost Kingdom. Like, I'd be like, yo, let's go like back to that treasure room. I need to like open up a bank account, you know, like this is, you know, like, geez, like she's loaded. Yeah. My girl has like so much gold. Like it's giving Harry Potter vibes. Like,
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
just like left with this vault of just like treasures. Anyway, so Daphne just kind of like poof disappears, and then Bloom kind of like seemingly takes her advice as she's walking out of the cave, and then emerges from the lake just transformed, just with her powers done. What? Like,
I had the same reaction, like, that was it.
That was it? Literally, like, that's all it took? You couldn't have done this 5 episodes ago? Girl, like, Daphne, you could have told me this on Sparks. You could have told me this on Domino. You could, like, you literally, like, you were right there. All you told me was that no one can ever take this away from me and to look within. Bitch! Like, I could have done that literally 5 episodes ago.
Oh, but you know, character development.
I know. The time wasn't right. She needed to discover it for herself. All of Farragonda's bullcrap that like she's been touting all season. Like, oh yeah, I knew you were the lost princess of Domino, but I needed you to find that out for yourself. I was like, no, you didn't know. You maybe had a feeling, but like you didn't know. Farragonda acting like she's been known. Oh my god.
I think there was a reason behind this, that to keep this secret from her. Why not? But there wasn't.
For why? We never were told the reason. Yeah, it's so funny. And in the 4Kids dub, again, there was so much more dialogue for this scene. And it was also very late in the episode. The scene was compared to where it was placed in the Cinelume dub. In the Cinelume dub, it was like the second-ish scene in the episode. I believe it started at about like 2 minutes 30 seconds into this episode, which is so early in a 20-minute long episode. And in the 4Kids dub, the scene actually happens around like 6-ish minutes into the episode, which like that doesn't sound like a lot of time difference, but like in a cartoon that is only 20 minutes or less, like 18 to 20 minutes, like that's a long time. You know,
especially for the 4Kids one, which is like 18 minutes long.
Yeah, short.
It's almost at the middle. Like it was. Yeah, it was a small. Yeah, I guess it was the middle break of the episode.
Yeah, like it was like more of a build up, honestly. Like, where is Bloom? Like, how is she doing it? Like, you know, like what is happening?
Exactly.
But what I really enjoyed about the 4Kids dub in this scene is how Daphne like was so much of a better guide for Bloom in her speech about her powers and how that can never be taken from her, and who you are can never be taken from you. Like that line was just gorgeous, and like the way it was delivered, like I love the 4Kids Daphne so much more because of like this like guidance that she gave Bloom, not just like look within, okay, good luck with that, you know.
Definitely, it was, well, she acted much more as a big sister in the 4Kids dub than in the original one,
which is funny, right? Because it in the 4Kids dub, we're actually never exclusively told that Daphne is Bloom's sister until probably like season 2. So yeah, we're not really explicitly told that she is, but she does act in such a better sisterly way towards Bloom.
Yeah.
You know, in this scene specifically. So I think that is so fun. And you know, and even in the 4Kids dub, when Bloom is coming out from the cave and she's just kind of like reflecting externally about what her sister has now told her, that dialogue wasn't in the Cinelume dub. You know, that was added dialogue that 4Kids gave us, of like Bloom saying like, look within me, what can't be taken, like she's like over here like reciting almost like as a mantra, like reciting it to her over and
Yeah,
over again to kind of like focus her energy to like search within herself.
exactly.
Um
While in the Cinelum dub is just blank silence,
just
just walking away and poof
and
out
then
of the
poof.
water.
It's like, well, I guess she figured it out.
Yeah,
The audience had no way of knowing that, but here we are.
literally. Even in the French dub, she was like, Daphne, Daphne, where are you, Daphne?
Yes.
And 10 seconds later, she has her powers back, and
Right.
yeah, it's much better in the 4Kids dub, and especially with the music, such a like I told a bit earlier, this music was awesome because
Yeah.
the opening theme melody brought in an epic way.
Yes.
Yeah, this one was perfect in the 4Kids dub.
I love it. I love it so much. And I also have a little piece of fairy trivia for you from
Oh,
Dragonfire Princess 7 on the Winx Forever podcast Discord community. So we
okay.
were watching Winx Club together on the Discord. If you're not a part of the Discord, definitely check it out. You can check it out in the description below. But we do not see Bloom transform again this
Yeah,
season. The last time we saw Bloom transform in season 1 was when she was in Gardenia with the witches in season 1, episode 18. So, it's a fun little fact that like we just like she just doesn't transform again like ever. And this
yeah,
and that's like so for me, that's so early in the season to like have a final transformation. Like,
definitely.
oh
Especially
my
since we're
gosh.
not ready for this.
Yeah,
Like she
right.
transformed to, but I think this is probably the best transformation she had because she transformed, she revealed she was ready to reveal her fairy identity just to save her
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. And I think this was the
Yes.
first time she was transforming in front of her parents.
I think so.
So this,
Oh.
this was really beautiful. Like this was the
Yes.
last time indeed, but this was a cool time.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
yeah.
probably the best time, like you said. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so sweet. Oh, I love that. But yeah, thank you, Tanya, for this very fun fact. Definitely check out the Winx Forever podcast Discord community. We love talking about all kinds of Winx Club topics like this. So yeah, join us over there. So meanwhile, at Althea, Flora is finally able to break the curse on Myrta and returns her to her human self. And after seeing this, Stella kind of like steps out on the balcony and points out that a handsome man is pacing back and forth below their balcony and notifies Musa that, he must be looking for her. Obviously it's Riven. Obviously, this is Riven
Obviously.
that she's talking about. And Musa pretends like, not to care, but then gives an excuse to go downstairs, like, oh, but I, could use a little walk. Like, oh, sure you could. Sure you could, Musa. Um and then Stella, kind of like loudly tells Riven like Musa's coming down, and Riven kind of is like, oh, I wasn't even trying to get someone's attention, whatever. And then once Musa arrives down there to greet him, Riven is like too nervous to actually like kind of speak to her and makes an excuse that like he was actually looking for Timmy before he just kind of like awkwardly like hightails it out of there. Musa's like, what on earth just happened? Kind of like the rest of the audience. Like, what just happened here? What was this moment?
I must admit, I never understood the purpose of the scene. Like,
It was so
weird.
silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what? What's funny about this, first we have this awkward interaction with Misa and Riven. In the 4Kids dub, the dialogue was also changed here. And it didn't make as much sense to me in the 4Kids dub as it did in the Cineloom dub, because at least in the Cineloom dub, like it was much more Riven-esque. Whereas in the
Yeah.
4Kids dub, they were like, or he was like, they don't really teach us how to do this in heroic school, but I think you're really cool and I have to go now. Bye. Like, what? What was that? not Riven. And also that was out of nowhere. Riven and Musa have barely had any encounters with each other in season 1. So there's not anything for him to warrant that kind of comment to her, because like he doesn't know her. He doesn't know how cool she is. Like they barely know
Exactly.
each other.
Yeah, and
I
the
mean
fact that
they yeah.
he fell for Darcy and her darkness, and
Yeah.
just feels like a bit out of character, actually. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. I cannot get behind that change on the four
Mm-mm.
kids side of things. But the Cinnalum Dub's dialogue here was much better in my opinion, because he was like, "Oh, I was actually looking for Timmy." Like that's much more of a like Riven thing to say,
Exactly.
than just
Yeah,
like. I think that the four kids change here was just pandering more to the Revusa fans out there.
hmm
Like they're like, let's just throw them a bone, like we
yeah,
know they're out there. Revusa is like such a like highly, like sought after like ship in the fandom, and like they just were like, we've gotta like this will they won't they, like oh my god. It was such a that was definitely fan service.
yeah, definitely.
Don't miss an episode of the Winx Forever podcast. Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are released. But then the Cinnalum dub cuts to the scene in Magix that we see Magic City is deserted, and the people of Magic City are encased in like these web-like cocoons. When I tell you like horror film, like it's like terrifying. It's like, oh my god.
And yeah, and when you think this was made for children,
Yeah, I was watching this when I was 9.
when I saw it for the first time,
Terrifying.
like, yeah, the tricks terrified me because of this.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
literally.
The Army of Darkness like monster things, like to think that they can just like cocoon people.
Yeah.
Disgusting. That is so nasty. That is probably like up there with like the Nightmare Monster episode. And like,
Yeah.
no thank you. No thank you. No thank you. This is terrible. And so Sky is, like looking for people and sees all these people cocooned, and he's like trying to like cope with like what he's seeing. At the same time, all of these monsters start to surround him, and he's like trying to do his best to fight back, but I mean, what can he do? He's like just a little like skinny white boy with a sword. He can't do very much, like, oh my god. Oh, it's so scary. Like there's
That's
4
true,
of
yeah.
them. There's 4 huge, disgusting, so gross. But I want to know like what version of like these monsters, because these monsters have like a couple of different versions. There's the little bitty worm ones, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the big ones with the like claws and the weird like tentacle out its
Yeah.
face ones. And then there's the flying like stingray ones.
Yeah.
And then there's the big
colossal
ones.
Yeah.
Yes, the muscle ones with no heads. So like what version of these are the ones that are cocooning people? Because I gotta know which ones to avoid,
I'm sure this is the little ones, like, they're just sneaking
Ew.
in. No one sees them, but ew.
I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so disgusting.
Today I find it was cool, but
Right.
it was a
man.
children's show, like
I don't
a
think that
kids
my
show.
parents actually knew what I was watching when I was watching Winx Club. They're like, oh, it's just a little fairy show.
I think it was the same for me,
It's
like
innocent, yeah. Oh, glittery
just some
fairies.
fairies
It could be
flying
that
around.
bad. Yes.
No dead
Oh,
people, no apocalypse, nothing like
yeah.
this.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I
Just
mean, it did. Rainbow did a really, really good job of making it feel
yeah.
so post-apocalyptic. Like rewatching all of these episodes together, like it was so nice to see just how truly terrifying like
Mm,
they were able to capture this essence of just like the urgency, like how like really scary and like real this all began to be,
Mm,
especially in this scene. And how like desolate it was. Like they just like produce all of these bad vibes, but, like in the best way. Like,
yeah,
like, oh my God, it's crazy.
and visually, and even with the
Oh,
music behind, like all
yes.
the sad themes that were playing when showing magic, etc. The silence, it was all
Oh,
like, yeah, they're on their own. Sky is really alone, and
yeah.
it really added a
Oh,
lot to the scene,
yeah.
to all the environment, the desolation the tricks have brought to magics, and they did a great job actually. And I'm so
Absolutely.
sad. I'm so sad. That's why season one is probably my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so sad we never got this back in later seasons. Like
Yeah.
season one was the best for this.
Yeah. The essence of the like golden age of Winx Club is just, I mean, it's like lightning in a bottle. Like you can't catch
Mm-mm.
it again, really. Like, or not the way that you did. And I wonder what it is though, like about that era that is just so much different. Like because obviously like the tone and I think the attention to detail even, but
Yeah,
like I mean, yeah, it's just something that we never regain after really like season 3. Season 4
exactly.
is questionable, I
Mm,
think a lot of people are
yeah.
split on that. But, like really after Secret of Lost Kingdom, like yeah, it's pretty crazy how different the vibe is. For sure.
And I think that's what we've been trying to capture in the fandom. Like when you
Yes.
see all the projects, I'm going to talk about mine, but there's also Almost Magical from Chocolate
Yes.
Smoothie.
Oh.
Uh, I think that we try to bring back this season one vibes with apocalyptic moments, and the fact
Mhm.
that okay, they're fairies, but them, they can fight, they can overcome everything, and yeah, Moonsub is not
Yeah.
only uh fairy fairy dust everywhere, smiles, rainbows, etc.
Right.
It can be dark too, and I think this is what we all try to give back to the fandom, to the community in the end, because
Yeah.
I think we are all really attached to these roots from season one,
Yeah.
actually, and we can really see it in this episode, actually.
Well, while at Cloud Tower, we see, just more creatures of the Army of Darkness are being produced. Several monsters are forged into these separate thrones that get erected, and the tricks, kind of take their seats on their thrones in the army. And the tricks are now in tow to Althea. They're marching straight there. Like we said, this is one of the scenes in the 4 Kids dub that it opened with, actually. And
Yeah.
honestly, I loved that the episode started with this scene in the 4 Kids dub.
Mm-mm.
Um, but I do want to point out like how extremely dramatic all of this was, from the size of the army to the gothic, rotting, decaying built thrones that they're riding on, and like the way they're sitting on the thrones. Like, what is Stormy and Darcy doing? Like, I can't handle it. It's so goofy looking.
Yeah, they just seem to be bored. Like,
Yes, they're just like
yeah,
so
the
rigid.
thrones were first horrible. Like,
Oh
they're
my
greatly
god.
designed, but the fact how they were made was disgusting.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
So gross.
They seem threatening, like
Oh yeah.
really threatening.
Like this, like when I think of like epic moments in Winx Club, I think of the tricks riding into battle on these
Exactly.
disgusting thrones. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I felt like this march to Althea was like 3 or 4 episodes long, but
Mm-hmm.
when I
Yeah.
rewatched it, I saw it just started in episode 25.
Yeah.
So, it just stuck in my mind that it was really. It was so impressive that I thought it was so long, and this is where you see that Rainbow did a great job at traumatizing us. Like for real.
Yes,
Because
though.
when you think that
Oh,
this scene lasted like 3 or 4 episodes when it just lasted a half an episode,
right. You're like, wait a minute.
10 minutes,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Oh, so funny. I also, from all of this, like from this scene, I get major Lord of the Rings vibes. I don't know if you're a Lord of the Rings fan,
Never got a
but
chance to look at the
oh
movie, to watch the
man.
movies, unfortunately.
So in Lord of the Rings, I mean, there's this really disgusting army that is being forged and created, like the Uruk-hai army, and even down to like Saruman's like tower. They're based at Cloud
Mhm.
Tower. Like just everything in it is so epic, and it really lends a lot from, I think, the Lord of the Rings franchise, of just like this hour of desperation, this like,
Mhm.
like dramatic like army that is coming to destroy all of the good that we know in the world. Like it's so, it just captures that essence so well, and for it to be also mixed with the like CGI and the written, or like the hand drawn animation, like I
Yeah,
love that too. Like I think that that is so fun, and I think it's a very fun style of animation that we see in the early 2000s, like
yeah,
cartoons of like that. Like, and really Winx Club was, and we've mentioned this before in the podcast, but Winx Club was one of the first like really like ahead of its time
yeah,
shows to introduce that combination of CGI and animated,
yeah.
drawn animation. So I love that so much. So at Althea, the Winx and Myrta are walking around the quad when Flora asks Myrta if, she has any idea of like the Trix's next plan. And Myrta, is aware of their power and, just newfound ruthlessness. And it's, is also unsure of what will come next. This is when Stella, then tries to make a joke, and Technic kind of like scolds her for it a little bit, but she's like, I have to, because if I stay serious, I'm going to think about Bloom. It's going to drive her nuts, and like I think that that's very true for our girl Stella. Like she copes with humor,
Mm.
like all good millennials do. Like we all cope with humor, because if we don't, we will
We
cry.
do.
Ah, I think that's so funny. She also points out that Kiko is also missing Bloom too, and in the Cinnalum dub, this next line was so dumb to me. Farragonda tells Griffin that like it seems the students are experiencing the side effects of like war fatigue or whatever she said. I don't know. I was just like, and then like it changes things. And I'm like, what,
Yeah.
what good was that? Like what purpose did that line serve really? Like it was very awkward the way it was delivered. Like I was
Mm.
just like, Farragonda, like we don't need your input right now. Like thanks. We know we're tired. What's your excuse? You're ancient. Like, like jeez.
Oh gosh. Maybe just something to kind of fill the blanks, or just,
Yeah.
this is something I kind of hate in current shows and even video games, etc. In
Mhm.
pop culture in general, that people are seem to be forced
Mm.
to tell us what's happening when we actually see it.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
we see it, we feel it. It should be enough. You don't need
Yeah.
to tell us. Like, of
Right.
course, they're literally in a war against
Uh-huh.
disgusting monsters. Of course they're tired. They're
Of course they
teenagers.
are.
Like,
Yes. Oh my god.
like the teachers are the only adults at this school, apparently. So
Apparently,
of
the
course
only
they're
adults
tired.
in the world.
Yeah. So of course
Oh.
they're tired. Like,
Oh my
I don't
god.
know. It could have been much better, definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe one of the girls saying it, or instead of her Ganda, or even
Yeah, just
her
like
saying she's tired, so
right.
she cannot
Yeah.
even imagine the students. pain or something.
Yeah, something as easy as that, not
Mm,
just like plainly saying it like,
yeah,
cool. And we're moving on. Like the way that we even just move on so quickly just shows how little significance that line held. It's just so funny.
yeah,
Oh, it's so the pacing and the Cinnalum dub sometimes just kills me. I'm just like, okay,
it
next.
does.
You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast.
But having this scene with the girls walking around the quad with Myrta, like I love this scene so much. Like I wish we had more of the Winx hanging out with Myrta. Like that would be so
Yeah,
fun.
I just feel bad for her because she was such a center point in season one. And the fact that Laura even said that you'll stay with us, etc., you'll be okay, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. And in the end, we never saw her again.
I
Like, it's so
know.
sad.
It's so sad. I love our girl Myrta. Like she deserves so much better. So the Army of Darkness and the Tricks continue to march their way to Althea, and the Undines see them actually, and two of the Undines fly to Althea to kind of warn them of like, hey, they're like on their way with a massive army, like a bigger one that we've ever seen. And I liked in the 4Kids dub how they actually added dialogue in this where the Tricks are talking about, Icy mentions like, oh, this way, like we're taking the invisible road because that way we're going to catch them by surprise. We're going to catch them off guard, and that was added in there because it kind of gives the Undines an even more important role of going and telling Farragonda that they're actually trying to sneak attack you
Yeah.
because they're taking this invisible road that like, so that for some reason the Undines can see anyway, but maybe that's just magic, I guess. And so yeah, at Althea, Coda Torta and Saladin are playing this board game to pass time and kind of get their minds off of things. And Coda Torta feels that like all of this waiting is making him very anxious, but not enough to distract him from this board game that he's playing against Saladin. And he actually ends up winning. And Saladin, like gets kind of like defensive and like makes the board game vanish after he like loses like a sore loser. I thought that was a funny moment. And then Riven and Timmy and Brandon are walking through the quad when Brandon continues to outwardly worry about Sky, and Timmy and Riven are trying to reassure him. Riven's not really doing a great job, but like trying.
At least he's trying, yeah.
At least he's trying. Yeah, poor Riven. He's had it tough this season. Part of it, most of it was his own doing, but but the three of them walk to where the Winx and Myrta are, and Misa kind of asks like, like what's going on? Do you guys have any news? And Riven's like, unfortunately not, Musa, or something like that. And I was like, this is such a weird interaction. Any interaction like after Riven coming back with Musa is like just so awkward in season one. It's so funny. And then minutes after the Undines arrive from the Dark Forest and tell Farragonda, about the impending attack, and tells them that they need to prepare. So we are back with Sky in Magix, and unfortunately, his enemies, these rotting, decaying monsters, disgusting, are proving to be more powerful than him. Shocking, I know. And Sky is, surrounded by 4 of these things, and it seems like, all hope is lost until dun, 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 Bloom arrives and blasts all the monsters to bits, completely vanishing them. And it's so good. Bloom then, flies down to meet Sky, make sure, he's unharmed. And he thanks Bloom for saving him. And they kind of catch up, with each other on what they've experienced. She's like, oh yeah, Daphne gave me my powers, told me how to look within myself to get my powers back. And Sky's like, cool, look at all these cocooned people. And And then they're like, great, let's go to Althea. So they head on towards Althea. Okay, well, first of all, this scene, especially with Sky and Magix, I mean, it looks like their Magical Bloom pilot animation. Because like the animation here is so weird and it doesn't ever look like this ever again in Winx Club. So I'm just like, was this part of Magical Bloom? Or Magical Bloom, it's just Magic Bloom? Was it the pilot? I get Magic Bloom mixed up with Magical Bloom because Magical Bloom is the song. Yeah, so funny. But yeah, like their like faces look so different, especially Sky's. I'm just like, this is weird. Like yeah, they look goofy as hell. Like, what on earth? Can we also talk about that? Yes, the Great Dragon appearing and them then riding it into battle. Does that ever happen again? Ever again in the series?
It doesn't. And this
Why
is
the heck not?
Yeah, you know. And this is one of the saddest thing, actually, because she was so cool, she was so powerful, and we never saw the dragon again.
Oh my
and
god.
it's just crazy.
It's so
And
sad.
I know it didn't sound like a dragon, but damn it, I loved the way it roared to everyone. You know,
and it was just like,
yeah, you had shields, etc. It was just amazing, and they never did that again.
It's like they forgot every good thing that happened in season 1.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, drag back to the drawing board. It's like, no, what? What do you mean back to the draw? No, the dragon, real. Bring back the dragon. I hope that they lean more into that in the reboot. For sure. Like, because it is, oh my god, it's such a special like ability that we see Bloom gets once she kind of comes into herself, you know, comes into the realization that, you know, she's a bad bitch with bad powers. Like, let's go.
And she's the fairy of the dragon flame, not the fairy of fire or anything.
I
like
know.
The dragon flame.
The dragon flame.
The dragon. Like
it's just so yeah, and, not just any fire fairy. Yeah, like, oh my god.
She's the only fairy of the dragon flame.
Also, did you get like major Faith the Winx saga vibes in this scene where she was like, blast this enemy. Like, she was like very much like season 1 like finale vibes.
Absolutely. I never made the connection, but now that they say it, it's actually really this, because even the monsters in Fate the Winx Saga, the burn ones, they actually look like these monsters.
Yuck! Yes,
disgusting.
Really
it's
disgusting.
Really, and the fact, it actually really looked like this. It really looks like this. Like we can see how Fate really took inspiration here and there.
I mean, honestly, yeah. Like the more that you kind of like dive into the Winx Club series, the more that you're like, oh wow, actually they probably did do their research, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just really cool and inspiring to like, you know, see and to realize. So yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, but I hope that in the reboots they will master this scene. Like, I hope. Like, please, Rainbow, if you hear us, do not give us the dragon from season 6. Give us the dragon from season 1.
Yeah.
Because the dragon from season 6, it was like this small and not impressive at all. Like,
not impressive.
I don't know.
Not impressive. Size matters, Rainbow. Dragon size matters. Give us a big ass dragon. We want it. So again, the tricks are continuing to march their way towards Althea, and at Althea everyone is waiting for another, you know, impending battle, and Griffin and Farragonda are overlooking the school on the rooftop, and Griffin continues to kind of feel guilty of, you know, letting the tricks kind of roam about on their own volition, you know, like they just kind of she just kind of let him do, and really in some areas encourage them to be as bad as they are. Farragonda assures her that, you know, this is not something that Griffin should feel guilty about because like this has never happened. Like how is she supposed to know, you know, that like their powers are obviously super strong, that they could take Bloom's away from her. And you know, she hopes that, you know, Bloom has not lost herself yet and that, you know, her powers are truly extraordinary. And then a few miles away, a bird servant of the Tricks are kind of like spying on Althea, and it goes and flies towards Icy and like lets her know that, you know, like they're prepared for battle.
Yeah.
And Farragonda can kind of sense that like their presence is near and that like this battle is about to go down. Dun dun dun, you know. And then that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. Mic drop. Whoop.
Mic drop.
To be continued.
Yeah, this episode, I mean, I feel like all of these episodes leading up to this one is so like slow. Like there's just so many things, like we're just waiting and we're just waiting and we're just waiting. And like, you know, like battling's happening, whatever, but like it's just like there's so much inaction happening at the same time. Whereas like then this episode is such a good ramp up to the finale. And I just it's so good. Honestly, I think that it might be the best one in the arc of the Army of Decay, like Army of Darkness arc. Like I think that it's so nice. It's so good.
The build up is it's actually incredible. Like you see they've rolled up everything, like Myrta, Bloom getting her powers back, Sky finding Bloom again, and they seem to be fine together.
Yeah.
Just waiting for the kiss.
I know.
Because the funny thing was that she called Sky her boyfriend in the fourth dub, which never happened in any of the dubs which are Cinnilum inspired.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I know, I love that. And he even pointed it out in the 4Kids dub of like, what was that about boyfriend? And she's like, oh, you know, I just needed something to shout, like heat of the moment sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he's
and
like,
I thought it was just so iconic, like
yes,
her trying to find an excuse for what she said. It was cute, and it's kind of gives some reason for the kiss to happen in the last episodes.
Yeah, which there's a lot of controversy about that kiss.
Yeah.
About whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
And
well, I guess in the 4Kids one it's much clearer. It's clear.
Well, kind of. It's still, I mean, there it's the same sequence in the 4Kids dub and in the Cinnilum dub. It has that like kind of ethereal like border around it, and like then they kind of like laugh after, and it was kind of awkward in both dubs.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I don't know if, because all these years I've always thought that it was a real kiss. I thought that was their first kiss, but now. Rewatching it for these rewatch episodes, I'm like, I'm not sure if anything's real. I don't know, you know, because it does make more sense that they just dream of kissing each other.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, they just like they want to, but then they don't.
They never do it.
But they never do it until season 2.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that would actually give completely different storyline for this too, like
right, like with that information that just changes my whole like thought process about the like Skloom like ship. I'm just like, then in season 2, of course Sky is jealous of Avalon, of course Bloom is jealous of Sky, you know, like interacting with Aisha for a minute, you know, of course, like all these things. I'm like, because they haven't determined the relationship. You know, they haven't like defined it yet. Like it's not like it's so crazy.
They do not have this trust in each other yet. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So much more sense actually.
I know. In all these years, I was like, oh yeah, Bloom's first kiss with Sky was in season 1. Now I am so unsure. I have no idea when it was.
You know, because like I mean because I see good arguments for both. Like yes, it was real, or yes, it was fake. Like or like a dream.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's insane. So, but we will I'll dive into that entirely in the next episode, but it's wild. It's a wild time. Oh my god, I love it. So some major events that happen in this episode. Obviously, Myrta is turned back into her original form thanks to our girl Flora. I love Flora for this. She is so powerful and so great. And like
Yeah.
all these people try to like make Flora out to be like this very like meek and mild like character. Like, no, my girl's a badass. She
Can beat your ass.
counterspelled.
Yeah.
She counterspelled the witches. Turning Myrta back. Like, that's so cool. She had the idea to turn the eggs in episode 3
Yeah.
into, you know, to counterspell the witches then too. Like, Flora keeps coming up with all of these like ways to like to solve solutions, and we're trying to say that she's a meek and mild little shy character.
She
Absolutely
literally
not.
pre-shotted the conversion spells in
Oh
episode
my
3.
god. Yes.
She's definitely not a shy girl you can harass or anything. She can literally beat your ass, and you know,
yeah, she is
don't
a
mess with her.
leader. Yeah, she's a
Exactly.
leader in the Winx Club. Like, I think all the girls take on like different roles of, you know, leadership in certain areas, but Flora has proven time and time again that she is a established leader in the group because she is powerful and she has good ideas, and you know, she does get frustrated, you know, and like she's not just like this cutesy little bubblegum like character. And I think that a lot of
Exactly.
people want her to equate to like in like Friendship is Magic, My Little Pony, like Fluttershy, like kind of like that like type of character, when like she just isn't. And I wish that people would stop writing that narrative for Flora because it's not true. It's not true. Ugh. Anyway. And a major event, I don't know if you could call this a major event, but like Riven is starting to like actually like notice Musa.
Yeah.
My note here says take interest in Musa, but like that's I wouldn't go that far. Like just like starts to notice her really without like the cloaking of like Darcy, you know, like kind of impeding on his well-being. And then obviously Bloom regains her powers, realizing that she really never lost them. And what I liked in the 4Kids dub, when she's telling Sky like, I never lost them, I just hope that, you know, it wasn't too late for me to realize that. Like, that is powerful. Like, that is her saying like, I feel dumb. They were here all along, and now I just hope that I'm not too late, you know? Like, wow, that's a lot for a little 16-year-old girl to like to handle, honestly. But you know, she's back and she's ready to freaking do the dang thing.
Exactly.
Well, at the end of all of these episode rewatches, we do like to kind of decide what our Winx Forever moment for the episode is. What's like the most Winx-tastic moment for you from this episode? So what would yours be, Yunen?
Well, I would say that it's probably Bloom regaining her powers, but it's this and the fact that she saved Sky in the same time, like showing, she regained her powers and how powerful she is now with the dragon, etc. It was just amazing. Like, I love this dragon. I love this dragon so much. You can tell. But yeah, every time she uses this dragon, like, this is a Winx-tastic moment, like,
yes, absolutely,
on top of everything. So yeah, regaining her powers and saving Sky.
Yes. Oh, totally. I think so. I think the same. Like, regaining her powers is definitely like, I feel like I don't want it to be like cliche of me to say that and like agree, like, oh yeah, same, you know? But like truly, like it's such a powerful moment. But I think that maybe like a runner up, or like what I'll say instead of, because like, you know, you clearly like, and very rightfully so, pointed out that moment. I think that for me,
my moment is going to be Flora bringing Myrta back to her true form, because that, to me, I mean, like, from the girls encouraging Flora to like try again, and like Flora
Yeah.
actually doing it, and like Myrta like being so grateful, and just like, and like them embracing each other like old friends, you know, like we've
Yeah.
been trying to do this all semester, you know, like it's just so, like, I have chills. Like, it's so Winx. It's so good, and I love it. And when I think about this arc, I think about, yeah, that moment of Flora finally being able to return Myrta to herself, and like, I think it's so sweet.
It
I
was
love it.
beautiful.
It
Like
was so
we were
so
all waiting
beautiful.
for it, and when it happened, it was dang it, Flora,
Perfect.
thank you. Like,
Yes.
really.
Well, that brings us to the end of this rewatch episode. Yunen, thank you so much for coming on the show and
Thank
just
you.
providing your insights, telling us all about your wonderful adventures meeting Iginio and Elisa and everyone. So share with our audience where they can find you and your art online.
Well, you can find me on principally on Instagram and Twitter under the name of Feeleam, or most likely YunenDraws, since I'm much more active now on this side. And if you're interested in my new projects, and I can tell that if you're a Winx fan, I guess that's why you're here, you'll probably like what I'm about to give you in a few months, a few years. I don't know yet, but if you want to join me on this adventure, you're welcome to join.
Absolutely, YunenDraws, and I will be sure to link all of Yunen's accounts below. So definitely check him out on Instagram, on Twitter, and yeah, keep up to date on all of his upcoming adventures. So exciting! Yunen, thanks again so much for joining us. It's been
Thank you
such
for
a
inviting
pleasure.
me.
Yes,
For me too.
absolutely.
It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, guys, until next time, our last season 1 rewatch, I am Lola Valentine, and this is the Winx Forever podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, be sure to subscribe on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are released. Join in on the conversation when you join the Winx Forever podcast Discord community. Link to join in the description below. The theme song for the Winx Forever podcast is the song She Makes Magic by Big Wild.